fantasy owners, welcome to LTC Fantasy here. Not sure if you're chiming in via YouTube or listening via podcast, but really do appreciate you listening no matter how you're streaming the episode here. I'd like to start out by thanking our current subscribers and new subscribers. It's really starting to get a little bit of traction here and really do appreciate it. And as we try to find those pieces each and every week here, don't forget to subscribe. That way you don't miss out on those pieces that you might need to help strengthen your roster. So today's our waiver wire episode. Thursday will be our weekend ads episode, and Saturday will be our week 2 strategy episode. Those are all coming out. And also daily, we are releasing shorts every day, looking at the next day's games with 3 different options for you to, on a short scale, try to find that missing piece for you on your fantasy roster. So for this week on our waiver wire episode, normally there isn't a lot of data because barely any games have been played so far. So need a little more runway before we start seeing some of that data there. And so we're going to look at some players that have some lower ownership that maybe needs a little bit more love for you. So we'll look at some goalies, some defensemen, and some forwards. And basically we'll jump right into it. Some goaltenders that have low ownership. Look at Cal Peterson from LA. He's owned in 15% of Yahoo leagues. He's 27 years old. Last year he was 20-14-2. 895 save percentage and a 2.89 goals against average. He is signed long-term and quits on an expiring contract. Peterson's getting paid quite well, so they'll want to try to make sure that he is the starter of the future. So I do see that transition happening hopefully this year, and could see him at worst being in a tandem situation. So LA made the playoffs last year, and those numbers should improve there. Another one is Matt Murray from Toronto. He's only owned in 59% of Yahoo leagues. He's 28 years old. Yeah, it's been tough the last couple of years, but he has played well in the preseason, and it kind of reminds me of when he was competing with Fleury for that starter's job way back in his early days in Pittsburgh. He's competing with Samsonov, tends to bring out the best in him, so could see him helping you out quite a bit on your fantasy roster. Next one's Vitek Vanecek from New Jersey, owned in 44% of Yahoo leagues. He's 26 years old. Last year he was 20-12-6 with a 908 save percentage and 2.67 goals against average. New Jersey, they're probably going to start in a tandem, but Blackwood tends to get injured quite a bit, where I really do see Vanecek taking over the crease. Does he hold on to it? Hopefully, if it works out for you, but do see him being able to help you out fantasy-wise this year. And the last one's Linus Ullmark in Boston. He's owned in 54% of Yahoo leagues, 29 years old. Last year he was 26-10-2 with a 917 save percentage and 2.45 goals against average. Yes, he will be in a tandem with Swayman. They split evenly last year. Both got into 41 games. Swayman is the younger up-and-comer, but Ullmark is signed for 3 more seasons at $5 million per, so they're definitely going to want to get some value out of that contract, so I do see him starting a fair share of games, which might help your fantasy roster there. Does he outstart Swayman? Not 100% sure, but I do see him getting 30-plus starts in a season, so could be a good depth piece on your fantasy roster. So we'll get into some defensemen. First one is Jacob Chikrin from Arizona there. He's owned in 51% of Yahoo leagues. He's only 24 years old. Last year he got into 47 games and put up 21 points. And in 47 games he had 66 blocks and 51 hits, so nice totals there. It was an injury-plagued season for him last year, but he did start to pick it up towards the end. And he's good in most categories, with the exception of plus-minus, because you are playing in the desert there. Another one from Arizona is Shane Gostisbehere, owned in 38% of Yahoo leagues. He's 29 years old. Last year he put up 51 points in 82 games and had 115 blocks. Yes, as I mentioned with Chikrin, plus-minus is going to hurt, but 50-point defensemen, there isn't a lot of them there, so do really see him helping you out potentially there. Next one's Hampus Lindholm in Boston, owned in 64% of Yahoo leagues, 28 years old. He was basically a half point per game player since coming over to Boston, and he's really going to benefit, especially early on with the injuries to McAvoy and Grzelcyk there. So really do see some upswing in him, especially the first part of the season here. Next one's Jacob Slavin from Carolina. He's owned in 64% of Yahoo leagues. He's 28 years old. Put up 42 points in 79 games played, so over half point per game. And he had 121 blocks. He really is a safe pickup for you if you do claim him on the waiver wire. He's decent in all cats, and Carolina's a really strong team, so expect that to continue. Next one's Gustav Forsling from Florida. Owned in 51% of Yahoo leagues. He's 26 years old. Last year he put up 41 points in 71 games. And he has good production. Should be even better with Uyghur gone, getting some added ice time. And he was also a plus-minus darling last year, so that's some added bonus there for you. Next one is Matthias Ekholm from Nashville. He's owned in 16% of Yahoo leagues. He's 32 years old. So far, he's put up 1 point in the 2 games he's played. He's +3, 2 blocks, and 1 hit. Only 2 games in, but it kind of goes with his career average of being a half point per game player. He really is a safe pick, nice depth move. Could really help you out instead of having a boom or bust pick that busts on you. Next one's Damon Severson from New Jersey. He's owned in 49% of Yahoo leagues. He's 28 years old. Last year he put up 46 points in 80 games. He also had 92 blocks, 91 hits, and 158 shots on goal. So nice production there. Really nice production. As you can see, he's okay in all-rounded stats. Really should be on an up-and-coming New Jersey team, a nice safe pickup for you. Plus-minus might hurt a little bit, as I don't still see them quite on the cusp of being a breakout team, but they are on the upswing. Next one is Vince Dunn from Seattle, 41% owned. He's 25 years old. Last year he put up 35 points in 73 games. He's okay in all cats except plus-minus, as Seattle's one of the weaker teams, obviously. But he is the alpha male on that blue line back there with Giordano gone. So I do see him getting ample ice time and should even improve on those stats from last year. Next one's the guy I just mentioned got shipped out, Mark Giordano in Toronto. Owned in 29% of Yahoo leagues. He's 39 years old. Last year he had 35 points in 75 games played. He had 139 blocks, 75 hits, and 151 shots on goal. Yes, he is aging, but he's still a fantasy productive defenseman even at his age. Yes, his ice time is going down, but he should be a nice pickup for you, and he's on a really deep Leafs roster there. So I would look to pick him up if you're needing some added depth on defense there. Next one is Josh Morrissey from Winnipeg. Owned in 56% of Yahoo leagues. He's 27 years old. Last year he put up 37 points in 79 games played. He had 104 blocks, 150 hits, and 173 shots on goal. He's pretty good all-around safe defenseman, depending how your league is formatted there, where he should provide some good value. He's really a solid safe pick. Another one from Winnipeg is Neil Pionk. He's owned in 60% of Yahoo leagues. He's also 27 years old. Last year, 34 points in 77 games played. He had 91 blocks, 185 hits, and 140 shots on goal. He's very similar to Morrissey, just a little bit lighter in some categories other than hits. He does have more hits, but he's a little lighter on blocks and shots on goal. So nice safe pickup if Morrissey isn't available in your league there. And now we'll jump into some forwards there. First one is look at Nick Schmaltz from Arizona. Listed as center right winger, so you get a little bit of versatility. 23% owned in Yahoo leagues. Last year he put up 59 points in 63 games played, and he was a +1. So really he's a pure offensive player. He's very point-based. He was a plus player on a really bad Arizona team, so being plus out there is a nice added bonus there. Gets to play with Keller again, assuming both are back. They're both listed with day-to-day with injuries right now, so do check that out first. But Schmaltz will be a good pickup for you, especially if it's a scoring-based league. Next one is David Krejci from Boston, listed as a center. 13% owned in Yahoo leagues, and he's 36 years old. He didn't play last year in the NHL, but he is a point-producing center. He proved that being overseas and before in the NHL. So he should be a nice, safe pickup for you. Another one in Boston's Pavel Zacha, listed as center left winger, so can slot him in a couple of spots there. Only owned in 5% of Yahoo leagues and only 25 years old. He did put up 36 points in 70 games played, but he's going to get more opportunity in Boston, and he will be surrounded by better players overall. New Jersey is up and coming, but overall Boston has a stronger roster, so he should improve on those stats even more, getting a little bit more power play time, etc. Another last one in Boston is Jake DeBrusk, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 20% of Yahoo leagues and 25 years old. Last year he put up 42 points in 77 games played. He really did carve out a spot for him in the top 6, should stay up there for the full year this year, and he should be a decent complementary piece to your roster there. Going over to Buffalo, look at Jeff Skinner, listed as a left winger, owned in 36% of Yahoo leagues. He's up to 30 years old now. Hard to believe he's 30 now, but he put up 63 points in 80 games played. He really had a nice bounce back season last year. Buffalo, that top line really did start producing there. He is light on blocks and hits, but he is a 30 goal scorer, has been consistent, fairly consistently puts up some goals throughout his career, so should be able to do that again this year for you. Go over to Columbus, look at Boone Jenner, listed as a center, 43% owned. He's 29 years old. Last year he put up 44 points in only 59 games, so he had nice extra value with blocks as well, nice production. And this year he's going to be centering Gaudreau and Laine, so with that, I do see his production even inching up a bit better for you, so should be a decent pickup. Another one in Columbus is Gustav Nyquist. He's listed as a left winger, right winger, only owned in 4% of Yahoo leagues, and he's 33 years old. Last year he put up 53 points in 82 games played, and he also had 51 blocks, which is really nice block total, if those are counted in your league. Obviously, nice extra value with those blocks. He's a little light on hits and shots on goal, but could be a nice complementary piece to round out the bottom end of your roster and your depth there. Another one's Tyler Bertuzzi from Detroit. Left winger, right winger, owned in 64% of Yahoo leagues. 27 years old. He put up 62 points in 68 games played. He's really good in all cats. Surprised his ownership is that low, other than plus minus there. Health is the biggest concern with him. He hasn't really stayed healthy in any of his seasons. Best he's done, I believe it was 73 or 75 games played, but still missed at least 10% of every season that he's been in. Next one is Kyler Yamamoto in Edmonton, listed as a right winger, only owned in 10% of Yahoo leagues, only 24 years old. Last year he put up 41 points in 81 games played, threw 114 hits and also had 36 blocks. He is starting out on McDavid's line, and with that, I do see him as being a nice complementary piece or depth piece in there because, well, McDavid makes people better, and he should improve on those stats even further there. Going over to Montreal, another young guy, look at Nick Suzuki, listed as a center, 63% owned, only 23 years old. Last year he put up 61 points in 82 games played and had 62 blocks, which is really high for a forward there. He had decent hits and shots on goal, so pretty good all-around player, and as him and Caulfield grow together, I do see this improving even further there. Another one from Montreal's Evgeny Dadonov, listed as left winger, right winger, only 5% owned, is getting up there. He's 33 years old. Last year he put up 43 points in 78 games played, but don't forget he was buried on the third line for a while in Vegas. When he got into the top 6, he went on quite the tear. Should be in the top 6 in Montreal. Yes, not quite as much firepower as Vegas had. Mind you, Montreal is improving there, and he is going to get some power play time. So I do see him as potentially being a nice depth piece for you. Going over to Nashville, look at Ryan Johansson, listed as a center, owned in 35% of Yahoo leagues, 30 years old. Last year he put up 63 points in 79 games played. He really had a solid season, and Nashville's starting to get production from forwards other than Forsberg. So look at Johansson as a nice complementary piece as they're starting to score a bit more from their forwards there. Over in New Jersey, look at Nico Heischer, listed as a center, owned in 37% of Yahoo leagues. He did put up 60 points in 70 games played and had 48 blocks, so decent amount of blocks there. Yes, he is injured to start the season, so do check to see when he comes back, or claim him and throw him on your IR and kind of bury him there until he does come back. But he's starting to produce. He is really good when he is healthy. I do see him as being a sneaky pickup to throw on IR if you are able to do that, and could be a very worthwhile pickup for you there. Next one from New Jersey is Andre Palat, listed as a left winger, owned in 55% of Yahoo leagues. He's 31 years old. Last year he put up 49 points in 77 games in Tampa, had 42 blocks and 124 hits. He really will be a nice complementary piece on any fantasy roster pretty much, and he will get more opportunity in New Jersey. Yes, there is Hughes and Bratt, but he's not buried behind Kucherov, Stamkos, Point, etc. So a little bit more opportunity, and he should improve even more for you. Next one's over in Philly. Look at Travis Konechny. Listed as a right winger, only owned in 23% of Yahoo leagues, and he's 25 years old, so still a young guy. Last year he put up 52 points in 79 games played and had 220 shots on goal, so fair amounts of shots. He didn't have a bad season, especially for how injured Philly was last year. They were absolutely decimated. Yes, Couturier's already down. Ellis, we know, is not playing. He was really a non-factor last year, only getting into 4 games. But if they stay a little healthier up front, Konechny could benefit with that and produce even more for you. Going to their arch rivals over at Pittsburgh, look at Rickard Rakell, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 32% of Yahoo leagues, and 29 years old. Last year he put up 41 points in 70 games played, but 13 of those points were in only 19 games in Pittsburgh. And this year he's going to get a full year of being on Crosby's wing, so I do see him producing at a fair clip there, and do see him as being kind of a sleeper pick for you, actually. You could really see him producing there and be some added value as a depth move there. Going over to Seattle, look at Matty Beniers, listed as a center, 47% owned in Yahoo leagues and only 19 years old. Last year he put up 9 points in only a 10-game stint in the NHL. Really nice production. He's been really solid in the preseason. I know you can't read too much into preseason, but looks to be the real deal as a former second overall pick. And he really should be an exciting player to watch, and might want to pick him up earlier than later, as I could see him really pulling off there. Plus minus is going to hurt, but should be a nice offensive piece for you. Another one from Seattle's Andre Burakovsky, listed as left winger, right winger, owned in 34% of Yahoo leagues, 27 years old, should be on Beniers' wing to start the season. Last year he put up 61 points in 80 games played. Yes, might not be as deep a team as Colorado was, but will get an expanded role in Seattle, and that should kind of counteract that, and do see him being a nice piece in Seattle there. Going over to Vancouver, look at Andrei Kuzmenko. Listed as a left winger, only owned in 34% of Yahoo leagues. 26 years old, should be on Pettersson's wing to start the season. He was dynamite in the KHL, so how will it translate to the NHL? Time will tell, but if you look at the preseason, again, don't read too much into it, but it should be some excitement around that player, and he's available basically in 2/3 of leagues there. Going over in Vegas, look at Chandler Stevenson, listed as center right winger, owned in 39% of Yahoo leagues, only 28 years old. Last year he put up 64 points in 79 games played, and he also had 44 blocks. He really was a bright spot in Vegas last year, considering how injured they were, their salary cap issues, etc. But with the different cap moves that they have made, having to give away Pacioretty, etc., he will get solid opportunity again this year, and do see him producing there. Last one's in Winnipeg. Look at Blake Wheeler, listed as a right winger, only owned in 63% of Yahoo leagues. He's 36 years old now. He did put up 60 points in 65 games played, so basically under 65% owned, almost a point per game player. Do see him producing still in Winnipeg. There's no real slowing down a little bit, but not a lot. So do see him producing there. So could be a very good depth move for you, which might pay benefits, especially on lighter nights, etc. there. Do hope you did enjoy today's episode. If you did, please remember to hit like, hit subscribe. Remember that notification bell. We'll be out in a bit with our Weekend Ads episode. And good luck in week 1 there, fantasy owners.